for that. Welcome to Coffee with the Port St. Lucie Mayor. I'm Teresa Aronson, President and CEO of the St. Lucie County Chamber of Commerce. It is our pleasure, our honor to do this event every second Friday of the month. It's free. It's open to the public. We do it right here at City Hall. We're actually in council chambers, and we film it. It should be airing throughout the month, but we do hope you'll join us in our audience. I am here with my sponsor, and my sponsor for the very first time, her very first time on the show. I'm very excited about it. From Mid-Florida Credit Union, Shrita. Shrita, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for being our new sponsor.
Thank you, Teresa.
And not only are you our new sponsor, but you're an ambassador for the Chamber. You're one of our board members for the Chamber.
Yes, ma'am.
And what do you do for Mid-Florida when you're not working for the Chamber?
Well, I am the branch manager at the US 1 office.
The US 1 office, yes. Very good. Tell us a little bit about Mid-Florida since it's your first time. I know it's a credit union, but how does that work for the general public?
Well, credit unions are owned by our members, so as long as you live, work, worship, or go to school in the county, then you can become a member.
And most of you do that, right? It's live, work, worship
or
in the
go
county.
to school.
Or go to school.
Yes.
It covers most of us.
That's right.
Very good. And they can all become members, and you're building a new one to make it more convenient. You'll be east and west. Where's your new branch at?
Right now we have one on US 1 and we have one in Gatlin, and we're building St. Lucie West.
Wow, covering all the bases.
Yes.
And what's the advantage of dealing with a credit union versus maybe sometimes versus a typical bank?
Well, we are member owned, so that means we report to our members. They're part of the credit union. They open up a savings account and they get voting rights. We normally have higher rates on deposits and lower rates on loans.
Very good. So high in all the right places.
That's right.
Low in all the right places.
That's right. And we still offer the same products as traditional banks. We are full service.
Sure.
We offer mortgage services and we offer business services.
So yes. Yep, home equity, everything.
Yes.
You got it all.
Yes. CDs, yes.
Great. Mid-Florida Credit Union, you can come to Gatlin, you can come to US 1,
Yes.
or soon out in St. Lucie West.
Yes.
All right, Shrita Walker, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Just keep going. Thank you. Welcome back. Welcome to Coffee with the Port St. Lucie Mayor. I'm Teresa Aronson from the St. Lucie County Chamber of Commerce, and it might be obvious, but we are Sans mayor right now. But we do expect him to join us very shortly. He's a little under the weather today, but I wanted to, because we have a live studio audience, and you too can join us. It's the second Friday of every month right here at City Council Chambers at Port St. Lucie City Hall. We'd love for you to come. It starts at 8:30, second Friday. I'm going to start off, since we don't often have an opportunity to talk a little bit about the Chamber of Commerce, because many of you may not be aware of everything that we do. Obviously, we represent businesses within the community, and we have a board. We are a not-for-profit, and we are a 501c6. We are not government-related. We are not government-funded. We are subsist solely on membership dues and fundraisers like this one, and just the support of the general public. But what we do is we serve as an advocate for businesses. We also provide some marketing, some opportunities, some networking opportunities and support. So that's kind of what the Chamber of Commerce does. We are very heavily involved in local government. That is because that is what our members require. Businesses have long processes when they open a business and when they're operating a business, and we want to have a voice when those processes are put into place. So just to give you a little bit of an idea, we only have one chamber in St. Lucie County. That is very rare. Most counties have several. They represent individual cities, but people long before I came along were very, very smart about deciding that we wanted to have one voice for business here, and it makes it much more powerful voice. So I myself get to sit on the Economic Development Council, the Tourism Development Council. the budget oversight for the county. I chair a development review task force, which helps business processes and abbreviating business processes. So I enjoy my job very much. It is a lot of advocacy, and I don't know if we get that out enough because we have a lot of great programs for people to come and enjoy, a lot of talk shows, but we do a lot of advocacy behind the scenes. I thought I'd open it up to questions today because as I do sit on a myriad of different boards and councils, I can speak to kind of business-related issues and things going on in the community. I know the mayor usually tackles that, but since we're waiting on him, we have some time to kill, so I'm going to give you a moment to think about any questions you want to ask. Nothing's off the table. If I can't answer it, I will tell you that. But I also want to mention that as a 501c6, as a nonprofit, we do have fundraisers going on all the time right now at our website, stluciechamber.org. That's stluciechamber.org. You can click on our auction site where we're auctioning off items donated by local business every single day. And it's some great items. It's things like a bass boating trip in Okeechobee, a private bass boating trip for 4. It's a gift card to Quiet Crab. It's TLC Experts cleaning and carpets, upholstery. They do everything there. Certificates for wine samplings, an HP Stream notebook, and visits to Tradition Family Chiropractic. So if you're interested in getting some great items for pennies on the dollar, please visit our site, stluciechamber.org. Mark, we'll see if anybody has any questions. I don't really love my chances. Oh, no, we got one. Good.
Okay, well, I'm just thinking of some other meetings I've attended. I don't know if it's here where they've talked about, or maybe it was even online. I saw that there's a program where they try to encourage residents to help determine what kind of businesses they want in our area. And I remember at one point taking part in that because I kept thinking, gee, it'd be nice to have a Trader Joe's here. And I think the mayor even commented on this at one point. And I'm thinking also about the fact that the Golden Corral restaurant in my area on US 1 has been closed for a couple years. And I've said, oh, that was one of my favorite restaurants. Can we bring one back? Or
well, Golden Corral is a franchise, so that's up to you. Could bring it back. You could buy that Golden Corral on US 1 and open that right back up. That would be great. But you're right. The mayor has spoke about it previously. They are tasking a group of people and some individuals within the city, within the county, to evaluate what these places like Trader Joe's. I always hear at the Chamber of Commerce, Trader Joe's, Cheesecake Factory, and Hooters. That's all anybody ever wants. But they have analysis, a market analysis that they do, and they're looking for some benchmarks, median age, median income, average, all of those things is where they decide to put their enterprises. If you don't meet them, you won't get them. And that's kind of how that works. So we're trying to figure out, we're putting together a database that tells us what are these things looking for so we can tell them, oh, we've met this here, we've met this there. But in the reality, in the retail world especially, if you don't have what their market analysis says they need to have to be successful by median age, household income, disposable income, they will not build, which is what the problem was with Costco. We didn't meet their benchmarks. Their benchmark said they need to be in Martin County, and they follow the rules. So that's kind of how that works. So that's the retail in a nutshell, if that helps you at all. Yeah?
Yeah, but I can't believe that we don't have, the criteria for a Trader Joe's. I mean, we've got all these other things like BJ's and Sam's Club and Aldi's. I mean, why would Trader Joe's not?
Well, I don't know what their market analysis requires. So, but we don't have it. I don't know if it's age. It could be anything. I don't know what it is. But that's what we're trying to work on is figuring out what is it that you're looking for, so we can make sure that they understand that we do have that. But apparently, we don't have it for Trader Joe's yet.
Is there any way to find out what it is we're missing?
That's exactly what we're trying to do. We're working on that, right?
The city actually has a consultant that they're working with until the end, we worked with. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we'll put you on mic for that. Introduce yourself and tell them what you're going to.
Yeah. I'm Sarah Prohaska. I'm the communications manager here. The city last year worked with a consultant. They did a whole retail and restaurant analysis looking at our demographics, our income, everything that Teresa was just talking about, and trying to match up companies that would fit those, and telling us the ones that don't fit them, exactly like what she said. Everyone wants a Cheesecake Factory. Unfortunately, we don't have that either.
No.
But those consultants are trying to seek businesses that fit our profiles too. So they're out there actively last year they were actively working to find restaurants
And sometimes
businesses.
they're a little secretive about what they're looking for.
Yes, exactly.
It's hard to gather that information, but
Yeah, but the city's working on it. And we've done surveys and all kinds of things to try to figure out what our residents want. And unfortunately, sometimes what we want doesn't match up with
what they're willing to build here.
right now, but we're growing.
Yeah.
So there's potential, so.
And we're bringing in new business every day. So very good question. Does anybody else have a question? Arlo, we have Arlo in the back. We'll let this gentleman go first since he's right here.
I came this morning. I sit here. I sit at home. I read the newspaper. I see some of the bad investments that Port St. Lucie County has made, and I'm just shuddering. As a businessman, I wouldn't do some of the things that the county did. And is continuing to do. And I'm not sure if the city's involved, but we're all going to end up paying taxes on it. We're doing something at the airport, and I'm not going to go into detail, but I think it's ludicrous. We're trying to open up a mega yacht port in Fort Pierce to a company that's gone bankrupt 3 times, and we're going to make an investment in that. Well, we've actually made the investment, so we're kind of incriminated to go ahead.
Well, let me clear up a couple of things. First of all, we're in St. Lucie County. You're in the city of Port St. Lucie.
Right.
It's not Port St. Lucie County. There are 3 jurisdictions here, actually 4 if you want to count St. Lucie Village. But the airport, we purchased, or the port, we purchased the land. We're not operating there.
Right.
And that's not at the airport, so I'm a little confused about that one.
Well, there's two big projects. We're putting up a 2-acre hangar at the Fort Pierce Airport in the hopes that some mechanical group will come in and it'll get corporate jets in there. But nobody's done any analysis on this. And I'm a flight instructor, so I know what goes on up there. I had my own boat for many, many years, a large boat. And
well, I don't want to speak.
wrong place.
I don't want to speak on behalf of the county or the city or any of those people because I am not government. I am a private sector business.
Okay.
So
this should be addressed to the mayor.
It should be addressed to the mayor. It should
Okay.
definitely be addressed to the mayor.
I will hope-
Now, the airport is held by the county. And there were grant monies received to build that hangar, but that is a county. The airport is held by the county. The port is held by the county. The port is in the city of Fort Pierce, but both of those entities are held by the county. But yes, you should address it to them because I certainly don't want to speak on behalf of them because I am not a politician. Say it with me. Me, not a politician. Okay, very good. Arlo.
Yes. My question is about the veterans home. Do you know the status on that? Someone just recently asked me that question, and I couldn't answer it.
I know. It is a county project. Franny Hutchinson, I wish she was here because she could probably say. But, you know, all systems go, but it's federal government. So I don't know how fast they go. But I have heard of no issues, no problems. Everything is on target. But it is a county project, although it is out in tradition. Yeah.
Good morning. I'll ask you something just about the chamber. Actually.
Oh, yay!
I've been a member 2 different times, and my problem is that the main events that you have every month are so big, and it's such a long time for people to just say their name and the name of their company and thanking everyone involved with the event and the breakfasts. And I just don't find there's a lot of good time for networking and promoting, your own business because they're so big. What about the idea of having some smaller events? Now, I know you have ribbon cuttings.
Yeah.
But what about, I actually am a big fan of the Stuart Martin Chamber. Almost every Tuesday they have a breakfast with maybe 60 people, but it's a lot. There's a lot more value to the business owner with a meeting of that size, I would say, than a meeting of 120 or 140 or whatever you usually have.
And I appreciate you bringing that to me. I can tell you that our events being too big is what every chamber vies for. Participation is everything. And so we have a breakfast 2 times a month because they're so big. But we have a lot of participation. The reality is, though, is there's more businesses in the room that you can network with, and you're more apt to find what you're looking for. I can say that we give an awful lot of time up front. We don't typically start on time because people are networking, but we always end on time. We have some smaller opportunities with our ribbon cuttings. We have smaller opportunities. Mark does a Chamber 101 quarterly that is more intimate, but the fact that we have so many people at our events is kind of what my job was to do, to grow the events. You know, that's how we subsist, that's how we make money, and that's how we bring value to our members. But I definitely get that, and I think that it's very difficult to walk into a room of 120 people and just start talking to individuals comfortably. I don't think that's comfortable for anybody. So that's why we have our ambassador program, and we need to get him hooked up with that, because our ambassadors serve as ushers into that four-way. Because when you walk into a room with 120 people that you don't know, your first instinct is to hit the wall or hit the bricks, because it's a little overwhelming, and we get that. But we started another breakfast because the one got so crowded, and that one's so crowded too, and we're not for profit, so we don't have a large staff, and to be able to do the events that we do now is difficult for us. I mean, there's only 5 of us, and we're doing so many events. But Dr. Jack, you want to add to that? Dr. Jack's one of our ambassadors.
I, plus many of the other chamber members who attend these functions, we've learned that you have to come early. The real networking starts at 7:30, actually about 7:20, to be truthful. So from 7:20 to 8 o'clock is the time that is really beneficial to do the networking. Then afterwards, the meeting does get over at 9, and so from 9 to 9:30. So I personally plan 7:30 to 9:30 in my schedule, and that's the only way, because once the meeting starts, there simply is no networking, and that you may hear the name of someone in their business, and if I want to talk with that person, then from 9 to 9:30, I try to do that.
That's very valid. You want to know who's in the room, because you may be looking for someone and been trying to connect with someone. So it takes a while to get around the room, and we tell them to be brief. I think we do a pretty good job of that. And we end promptly at 9, because we do want you to take any extra time that you have to network. But always valid concerns, and we like to hear what our members think. So thank you for bringing that to us.
The other thing too, Teresa, the chamber has grown dramatically over the past couple of years in terms of membership. What's the difference? Why, beside Mark, obviously, and his wonderful work, he just is going to slip me a 5 after that.
I know, our director of sales is feeling pretty good right now.
But why, when you think in terms of reflect, why has the growth taken place as it has?
Got this. No. I think it's several things. Anytime a membership grows, a membership-based organization grows, whether it be a Planet Fitness or a Chamber of Commerce, when a membership organization grows, it is a good indicator that the economy is picking back up. That's for sure. So you're going to get some love just because people have money again. But also, we did bring in Mark about, oh my gosh, it's been 5 years, 4, oh my goodness. Yeah, and he's been great for us. I mean, everybody knows him. He's out there every day, a former business owner here in town for 2 decades. And then I think that we do have successful events. Our events are timely. We keep them to time. We make sure that you're going to get out of there on time. We try to give you the value that we can in that short amount of time, and we make sure that there's enough people in the room that it's worth your efforts. Because I can tell you, when I started with the Chamber over a decade ago, some of our events had 20, 30 people or more, and I just kept seeing it dwindling. Because when you don't have very many, they don't see the value, and then they stop coming. So the fact that we sell out every month with over 100 people at our Chamber is bragging rights for us, realistically. So yeah, there's a lot of reasons, but I think maybe my great staff might be number one. So we'll go with that. The mayor obviously is here, and we're going to get him mic'd up, which I think has already taken place. Be a little easy on him. I know he's not feeling super great. I'm a little worried.
That's fine.
You're okay? I don't want to get sick. That's for sure.
Did we, Mid-Florida Credit had a good session?
Yeah, we did. We learned all about Mid-Florida. They're going to have 3 branches in this beautiful city very soon.
They are.
All 3 in your city.
We have the Gatlin that's opening.
Yep.
We have St. Lucie West, nice 2-story structure right on the corner of Cashmere and St. Lucie West Boulevard. Mm-hmm. There's already a US 1 location, unincorporated St. Lucie County, but where's the 3rd one going to be in the city?
Oh, it's unincorporated. It's right there on the line. I thought it was close.
Oh, so I guess you're not the mayor yet.
Yes. We've made it very clear I am not a politician. We went over that earlier for a good 10 minutes.
No, that was based on knowledge, so it had nothing to do with politics.
Well, okay.
Don't worry, I'm not sure it's contagious.
But yes, it's unincorporated. You're right. Some of it meanders through there.
You know Punxsutawney Phil?
Yes. Groundhog Day.
Yes,
Yes.
So you know I'm a native Floridian, right?
I do.
So
Born and raised, yep.
This morning I poked my head out of my...
Saw your shadow?
Well, I felt that it was under 50 degrees, and I said, at least 2 more hours of winter.
So crawl back under the covers.
Sorry that I joined you late. So it's my understanding there was a question about debt.
Whoa,
I heard,
I'm going to take a break, get a little coffee.
I heard that you answered every question exceptionally well because you are, the leader of the chamber. But there was one that you dodged like a nimble ballerina.
And I will admit it. Anything that had to do with money or decisions by local government, I dodged pretty hard. But I'm a private sector business. That's my job too. But yes, we had a. I don't know if it was a statement or a question, but it is all yours.
Was the guy in red?
It was.
Yeah, like he's really fired up. Let's see the question.
I am going to get some more coffee. I'm going to let you handle that one. I'm going to get a little coffee. I'll be right back. We're coming in and out today. But that's the guy. You ask him.
Mr. Mayor, I've been a businessman for a lot of years, and a lot of things that the city and the county does as far as spending money in trying to induce people to come into the county and city sometimes doesn't pay off. I mean, we had this biotech fiasco, and I think we're headed the same way. Again, this is not your particular area, but the airport and this large port at the inlet, the St. Lucie Inlet, Fort Pierce Inlet, I'm sorry. We're putting big bucks into that, and eventually it's going to funnel down to the taxpayer. All of that being said, I think that there needs to be some common sense in spending money, and a lot of politicians from the top, Mr. President, all the way down to us, we've kind of lost common sense in spending money. We don't really run a political organization like I would run my business. And I think that, just as a suggestion, you might want to set up a non-paid board of business people, and I'm sure we've got plenty of them here today that would volunteer, and I would also put my expertise in before we go in for a big project to analyze it, look at it, cut it up, dissect it, and see if we're going to get killed on it. So that would be my suggestion. All righty. Your name, sir, again? Stu Schechter. I'm just a resident here in Port St. Lucie. SCHECH.
And a businessman. And we're all just residents of Port St. Lucie here, so I appreciate it. But I'm kind of straightforward to a fault, if you don't know that about me. And what I'd say is that you just unloaded so much that we could actually probably teach or at least address it through a collegiate level course, in all seriousness. So there's a lot to unpack there, and Trissa hates it when I get into the weeds during our shows that we produce together. So let me just say a few things about that. One, you bring up national politics, and for me as your mayor, I always feel like it's my job to bring us together. It's a big part of my job to bring us together. And because national politics are so divisive, and we can very rarely influence national politics on the local level, really don't jump into those issues and take major stands that will immediately divide 50% of our population, or, the parties might hate to hear this, but maybe something more like 33, 33, 33, because the two parties are actually becoming smaller compared to independents. But once you take stands on national issues that the city can't directly impact, we drive a wedge in our people. And there's so much to do locally. And try to stay away from the national issues unless there's a real connection and that we can make a difference here at the local level. At least, and especially in my capacity officially as your mayor, because as you know, we're nonpartisan at this level. I think it's one of the great things about your local government is it's just about getting things done for people. It's not about flying the party flag and the hyper-partisan politics of today. So I'm going to take the national off the table. The county, this is just an opinion, but I'm happy to share it. If you would think about communities and counties, and you would think about their strategic assets, and you want your community to be prosperous, you have to develop strategic assets like airports and ports. That's where money flows into your community if you do it the right way. So I can appreciate anyone's concern about the value of investments and if it's the right decision, and you should be involved. And you know, your comment of I'm just a resident, well, we're just all residents of Port St. Lucie and or St. Lucie County. We may have some visitors. So it's up to you to be involved and to make sure good decisions are being made. The council is kind of paid. I think my salary is up to about $50,000 now. I think the city council members make about $35,000, so they're semi-paid. It's not like they're getting paid for full-time work. It would be more than that. So even your council is a semi-paid bunch. There's plenty of cities across the state and the country that they're just unpaid. They're volunteers. They're just citizens of the community trying to make it better. That's our form of government. We have a number, here at the city level, we have a number of committees which are completely unpaid: Planning and Zoning Board, Budget Advisory Committee, Sales Tax Oversight Committee, Contractor Review Board. You know, there's a pretty decent list. So there's plenty of opportunities to participate. I'm a numbers guy and an efficiency guy. So there are definitely aspects of private sector you'd like to get in the public sector, especially being data-driven, being able to brutally confront facts. There's a number of aspects of private business that we would like to inject and make sure that the public sector is embracing and really living. At the same time, I got to tell you, government is not business. It can't be business. When you make a decision as a businessman, especially in a sole proprietor business, you don't have to go to a board. You don't have to make the sausage in public on TV. You're not subjected to the opinions of 189,000 people on every single thing. You're not. It's a fundamental difference. And so our system is not the most efficient system, democracy. It's messy. But the offset to that mess is the freedom and the safety. And so that's why, I mean, we're really talking about, it's not even a 101 course. We could start with the 101, but we're going to go to master's level by the end, because we're really talking about some big issues, and they're great issues. It just, we can't get through there in the course of one show. But you did mention debt. And as you may know, the city of Port St. Lucie has a strategic plan. And especially over the last 2 years, this city council and this administration have been working very well together. And it's because really we went out to you, the people, and purposefully developed a strategic plan based on the priorities of the people and said, hey, these are the most important things. I carry it around with me on my person. It's kind of like I carried the Constitution and the strategic plan. I try to do that everywhere.
List is the strategic
It really is. And
pages.
you know, we have an award-winning communications department, and we got Kate Parmalee in the back who works on the strategic plan. That's her job. And they do this really pretty thing with the wheel. I do a spreadsheet, 10 things on it. And this comes from you. And this was actually our 16-18 side, in this no particular order: sidewalk master plan, crosstown, A-rated school district, just remember, everybody, we are not the school district. That's a separate governmental entity. Schools are very important, so we try to influence. Riverwalk plan, and then here, lower debt and taxes. So that's right in our strategic plan. It's one of the most important things that this council is focused on. We have a lot more things to do, but this is our list of priorities. This is the most important of the important. You know, you only have so much time and money. Lowering debt, lowering taxes, and one of them. So this year we lowered our millage rate, our property tax rate, for the 3rd year in a row. And debt, we've now knocked off 29% of our peak. And we do at least a couple reports a year exactly on where we're at with our debt, so you can see. And a lot, the failed economic investments that you mentioned, they get all the attention because they're the most dramatic. But most of our debt is actually related to the utility. In fact, about more than half is related to the utility. And that's because we built a new state-of-the-art utility from the ground up starting in the 90s. So we don't have any of those low-cost wood pipes like Boston does, you know. Of course, those are expensive to replace later. But so that's where a lot of it comes. So most of it's not even what we would call bad debt. Most of it would be more properly thought of as like your mortgage. You know, not all of us can pay cash for our house. And we had to go get debt, but we got a low rate, and we make a payment over time. It's responsible. That's kind of our utility debt. There's a piece of that we really, you know, drives us crazy up here too, because we have the benefit of hindsight now. But we're attacking that. So we're at 29% this year. We're looking for ways to accelerate repayment, and that's why we report back to you every year. That's one of those things where, just like you do in your business, you set a goal and then you want to hit the target. And that's what we do with our strategic plan. And since it brought up the strategic plan, one of the things I like to point out is that you know, we're probably 190,000 now. I bet we'll be over 200 in the 2020 census if the U.S. Census Bureau is no longer closed due to the shutdown, if they're actually allowed to.
Their website's
count.
open. They're taking out.
Oh, I guess I did wade into a national issue there.
Yeah.
Open up the government. There's my take on a national issue. We're going to be over 200,000. 200,000 people, believe it or not. You have opinions, don't you?
Occasionally.
Yeah, she does, he does, everybody does, and they're all different, you know. And that's the beautiful thing about democracy. You don't have to go to 200,000 people. So when you have 200,000 opinions about the right way forward, and you have almost a limitless, an infinite number of things you could do, but you have a very finite, a very limited amount of time and money, you got to focus on what's the most important thing. And that's what our strategic planning process is. That's what we try to do. But I want you to know debt and the financial aspect is absolutely in there, as are those other things.
And I've known you a long time. That's always been one of your top priorities, is the debt. And I know that from speaking to you for 10 years, that it bothers you.
It does.
I know.
Because, you know, if it's a smart investment like your house,
yeah,
it's serving a really important purpose that's going to positively impact your life if you've made proper decisions. But if you finance going out to eat with your credit card, that interest and that carry is going to kill you for the wrong reasons. Mm-hmm. And it's no different. It's no different. But thank you. Be happy to talk to you anytime, Stu.
I was just going to say, Stu maybe wants to meet with you and really delve into some of those, because he did mention a myriad of issues, and you know, I was like Wonder Woman with my cuffs.
Well, get out your lasso. Let's get down to the...
But you, it looks like you brought some information that you wanted to talk about, maybe, yeah?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is a nice audience. This is Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Are there any other so Stu had some, you know, he came. I like that, actually. It's too. Like over the holidays, he's like, man, these are the things that I'm really wondering about. They're concerning to me. I want to make a difference in 2019. I'm going to go to coffee with the mayor, and I'm going to hit Teresa with all these questions.
I actually got a question about the chamber. They didn't like our events. They're too crowded, but it's good. You have to hear what people think, and it's important. I like the process, so I enjoyed that one, too.
Too crowded?
They were too crowded.
Wow. So maybe that's like a parking problem. You know, I've worked in with cities for a long time, and a lot of people complain about parking. Yeah. And from a city's perspective or a business's perspective, the problem is when no one's parking.
Yeah.
If it's hard to get a parking spot, that's a good problem to have.
It is. It is a good problem to have. But I get it because it's overwhelming when you have that many people in a room and you're trying to network. It can be overwhelming. I get
Well,
that.
you might want some more intimate contact.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, when you're running a
Valid.
campaign, there's sometimes you want to go and do the biggest
big
packed house you
thing,
can,
and
and there are other times when you want to get some one-on-one time.
I get it.
We're very lucky to have an Oxbow Center, Environmental Learning Center, right there on the North Fork of the St. Lucie River. If you've never been there, right off of St. James, it's a great place to go. It's a really good place to bring the grandkids or visitors, you know, pop in there and check it out. They are producing For the Love of Florida, telling the essential Florida story. It's a lecture series, and it's put on in conjunction with the Florida Department of State, and specifically the Cultural Affairs Division. The Florida Humanities Council, St. Lucie County, of course, that's Oxbow is part of St. Lucie County, and it's in the community center, so we're joining in. And this week was the initial lecture, Join the Blue Revolution, Florida's economy. It's about water, Florida's economy and water. But coming up, there's some really great ones. It was hard to really pick my favorite. I went to the Join the Blue Revolution.
Oh, good.
And if you've ever read Land Remembered, it's a really great book about old Florida pioneering families. The son of the author is going to be giving one of the lectures. So these are really high quality lectures. It's a fun thing to go do. It's completely free. They're held at 6:30 at the community center, different dates. I posted this on Facebook. It's obviously in a couple different places, but want to let you know. When I posted this and I talked about Join the Blue Revolution, I had a Facebook comment that, well, people won't go to that because it's the Blue Revolution. And, you know, that means it's a democratic revolution.
Wow. Okay.
And so, you know, I just bring that up because it's a squirrel letter, but, you know, someone really feels like that. So I always appreciate the feedback, you know, about how people feel. But I want to push back against that. And here maybe I am taking a stand on national issues. As I explained on Facebook, water appears blue, and the planet Earth is known as the blue planet. And I'm sure that's where Cynthia Barnett, the author, got the Blue Revolution from. That was part of the inspiration back in 2011 when the book was published. So we can't let our hyper-partisan feelings right now, Port St. Lucie, impact our thinking, our analytical ability, and let it shut down so that we miss out on important conversations, because water obviously transcends politics, right? It's essential to life. And regardless if you're red, blue, purple, or clear, no color, water is important to you, and you should want adequate supply of clean water. Otherwise, you can't live. And you know what I like to say? You know what I like to point out?
What?
Is that any living organism has two biological imperatives. Do you know what they are? If you're alive, you want to do two things.
Hydrate.
You want to continue to live, and preferably you want to live long enough to reproduce. Those are biological facts.
Really?
Yes. Walter Steele will send her to Bio 101.
The feminist in me wants to say
True.
so much right now.
I'm speaking biologically.
Childless feminist in me.
Well, I don't want to say you're a failed organism, but we'll go to the questions.
Oh, he's going to get a letter.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We're here from Eastlake Village. Christy and I used to be on the board. The board of directors has asked us to come. We're concerned, partly what the gentleman talked about earlier, the southeast section of Port St. Lucie that butts up against Martin County. It just seems like we have like a huge dead zone of retail and restaurants and that sort of thing. And as soon as you hit the Martin County line, you have Cracker Barrel and the Olive Gardens and the Red Lobsters and all the restaurants. And we have to drive to Martin to spend our money. And we feel like as soon as you hit the Martin County line, there are no retail, restaurants, you know, that kind of thing. And there was a lady that talked about a coalition that was working on that. And we feel like we have Eastlake Village, we have Sandpiper, we have Ballantrae. There is a lot of money on that end of town, and it looks like the restaurants go to Tradition and St. Lucie West.
I just want to fill him in on something, okay? Stu and I talked about this earlier before he got here. And we talked about.
Did you solve the problem?
We
Doesn't
talked
seem
about
like
how
you
we were
solved it.
working to get the analytics and the demographics so that we can target those that are willing to come to our county. And it seems that it's the same question again.
No, I could be more direct though, whereas, you might have wanted to.
We talked about the Golden Corral. I told him
You
it's a
wanted to be
franchise.
more like a politician, and I'll just hit this
No, I did
directly.
not.
So,
I said if you have it, they will come. I mean, I couldn't have been more direct. You meet the benchmarks, they will build. It's that simple.
It is that true. So the dynamic is nothing new. And so back in 2001, the city of Port St. Lucie established a community redevelopment area for the US 1 corridor. So, the idea that we want to reinvest in this area and we want to revitalize it, that's nothing new. We're dealing with some fundamental challenges there so that haven't changed and really are hard to change and probably won't change. So once upon a time, Treasure Coast Mall was built at where Jensen Beach and US 1 meet. And that's where the beach traffic meets a major north-south corridor. And around that came up a mall, a Simon Mall, the biggest mall operator in the world by far. And as a result of that, all the retailers and restaurateurs opened up right around the mall, and they created, a very strong trade area. That's existed before my time here. I moved here in 2002. And obviously that's been there much longer. And that's part of why Village Green Shopping Center, the original, failed. And so most of our commuter traffic, at least historically, has gone south from PSL Boulevard. I mean, that's all you have to do is look. Why are there hot rights onto US 1 off of PSL Boulevard, and why are there 3 lefts northbound US 1 onto PSL Boulevard? So the historical flow of traffic has brought people to jobs and shopping from the southern edge of the city out of the city. And that trade area is established. People, rational consumers, don't really know. You know where the boundaries are, but most shoppers do not. They go by drive times. I live in Sandpiper. It's very convenient for me to drive to Treasure Coast Mall. If it wasn't for me being the mayor, it wouldn't matter that I drove to Treasure Coast Mall. It takes me 8 minutes to get to the Treasure Coast Mall. So that dynamic impedes any other retail because it's one trade area. It's only 3 miles from City Center to the mall. So Olive Garden or, pick what you want. They're not going to open up another store 3 miles away. Apparently, the only operator that will open up a restaurant that close to each other is Burger King, and we have enough Burger King. So I hope they don't get any ideas because they're
Lots of Burger King.
There's more Burger Kings on US 1 than Mid-Florida Credit Union, I'll tell you that. And Mid-Florida Credit Union's much healthier, by the way. But, so you have some fundamental issues. Now, will Crosstown change that? Because because I always ask the question, how do you stop people from making the right? Or how do you stop people from making the left? So Crosstown will bring more trips through the heart of the district. So that could help change. The irony is you said you're from East Lake Village. Do you know that East Lake Village was part of redeveloping the US 1 corridor? Because it was one of the largest chunks of land. That was Lentz Grove. That was an isolated orange grove operated by the Lentz brothers. You're part of that effort. Redevelopment happens over time, and City Center has been hamstrung. So City Center is the next opportunity to positively impact that area, the community redevelopment area. But in dealing with tough truths, the reality is, for as much as we look at Sandpiper and East Lake Village, the demographics of the US 1 corridor and what we would call the trade area are not as good as tradition. They're not. Furthermore, they're much different scale because tradition, what we call tradition, is really a number of what we call developments of regional impact. There's 50,000 new homes going west of I-95. Now, how long it takes for that to build out remains to be seen. But those are entitled. Those are legal rights that those property owners have. So it's going to happen subject to the cycles of the market. What's the population of Eastern Port St. Lucie? I mean, how many rooftops could there possibly be? Not as many as out there. Every house that's built in tradition, let's say it's going to be 275, 300 and up.
Zero lot line.
How does that compare? How does that compare to the Eastern Port St. Lucie? So that's the challenge. So that's why the city created a CRA, and that's why things like East Lake Village and the streetscape, and not only for flood control, but the major investment in Eastern Watershed Improvement Project. That's why City Center is so important. That's why we're working on plans for Village Green Drive to see what that can be when it grows up, so to speak. That's what it's going to take. And at the same time that we're working on all these local issues, you have national issues playing out. What's happening with retail? Is everyone going to shop via their computer and UPS or FedEx? How much real estate is needed for that? How much real estate is needed for office space and with telecommuting and those capabilities? So all these things are playing out at the same time. I wish I could tell you that we have all the answers. We don't. What I can tell you is that we have a CRA. We're going to continue to work to redevelop the US 1 corridor, and that City Center is kind of the most important thing in front of us. And remember that the half-cent sales tax proposal also included money for the beautification of the US 1 corridor. See, the city can't force the business and restaurateurs, which I'll personify
By shaking Teresa.
Teresa here. We can't force them to go anywhere. No. We can have available zoning. We can create an accommodating atmosphere. We could be the safest place in Florida. We could have the greatest rate of home ownership. We could be a great place to live. They have to decide to go there. But we can make physical improvements. So, we can dress everything up. We can make sure everything looks good. We can be inviting. And then we'll continue to cut the red tape, hit the tax environment. Mm-hmm. Those are the things that we can do. And those are the things that we are doing. And you could argue that we did take the next step, and it sounds like you addressed that. We actually hired a retail consultant, mm-hmm. and we studied the market from the perspective of the private sector to identify, what's possible and what's not. And if you haven't seen that report, you might want to take a look at it. We can hook you up with it.
Yeah. We did talk about that quite a bit.
Because let's say that tradition is, that's where it's at. Let's say Cheesecake Factory, or I don't know, you want to do Whole Foods, whatever is your personification of manifestation of the perfect thing that we don't have. Even tradition can't attract that yet. It comes down to, in just rough numbers, 100,000 people making 100,000 a year within, depending on what business it is, let's say 30-minute drive time. We have maybe 200,000 people, and unfortunately 100,000 of them aren't making 100,000 a year. So we don't have that type of user yet. You like IKEA? A lot of people like IKEA. You need 1 million people in your trade area. We don't have that.
More like the Kaiser building that vacated and went to something like an Outback, or something that is not at Martin that would make people drive an extra mile, to. Well,
and this is why it's so important, because I've been explaining the phenomenon for a long time now. I can't believe how long, 16 years, maybe going on 17. And but I'm not a retail professional. That's what, and that was why I was so happy that the city hired the retail professional, so they could say the same thing. What's a consultant? Person that tells you what you know from a different zip code. So it's really important. Let's take your specific example of Outback, because I really appreciate it. So you live in East Lake Village, correct? I live in Sandpiper. Let's say we're about in the same place. It would take us 24 minutes to go to the Outback in South Stewart. It would take us 24 minutes to go to the Outback in St. Lucie West. Mm-hmm. And because we love the city, we're of course going to go to St. Lucie West and make sure those sales tax dollars accrue to St. Lucie County and not Martin County.
7% of them.
Yes. So 24 minutes is a reasonable drive time. Outback is not going to approve another store based on our population when it would be within, because it's not 24 minutes, right? It's 12 minutes. We'd be cutting into the market areas of both of those stores, reducing their sales, and they're not over-wedged. They're not over capacity. So that's not possible. Mm-hmm. So cross that one off your list. What's next? And that's really the process. That's what we hired the professional for. Yeah. Well, Outback's out. Chili's is out. Ruby Tuesday is out. And that's truly the process, and that's the process that we went through. This is making the sausage right here, Stu. So this was a huge week. It was a huge week. Cleveland Clinic, that deal is done. They have merged with Martin Health System.
And Indian River Medical Center?
Yes.
They're coming?
But most important to us, Tradition Medical Center is now Cleveland Clinic Tradition Hospital. Ladies and gentlemen, Perry being the safest large city in Florida, a city with the highest rate of home ownership in the country, with having one of the best hospitals in the world, is a big deal. Especially when you think about layering that with the school district on the rise, which is now in the top third of all school districts in Florida, with an Aspen award-winning state college. Mm-hmm. We're building something really special in PSL. This is a big deal, and what it can mean to our long-term prosperity. Because going back to the biological imperative, I'll just stick with number one, because hopefully you can agree with, if you're alive, you want to keep living.
That one I can agree with.
That is a fundamental question, and it's a question that anyone asks when they're evaluating where they want to live, is does it have a good quality of life? Is the health care good? So, because not everyone has kids, right?
They don't.
So you might not ask about the school district, but you will ask about the hospitals. So to have... What is that piece of paper? This is a proclamation. Thank you for asking. This is the Cleveland Clinic Day. Trish is gonna, you can walk out as I read. This will be the closing credits. Whereas the city of
joining us, everybody, and he is going to read.
Whereas the city of PSL is building something special, a safe, beautiful, and prosperous city for all people, and whereas the success of any city, and especially the city of PSL, is a function of its citizens, the people, businesses, and institutions that comprise it, and this success is often measured in terms of quality of life. And whereas the success of our citizens and our community's quality of life is fundamentally dependent upon health and wellness, and whereas the city of PSL is a growing, thriving community that warmly welcomes new citizens and especially appreciates those who are committed to making their community, state, country, and world a better place, and whereas the Cleveland Clinic is a world-renowned nonprofit multi-specialty academic medical center which integrates clinical and hospital care with research and education and is dedicated to providing better care of the sick, investigating what makes them sick, and further educating those who care for the sick. And whereas since its inception, the Cleveland Clinic has proven its ability to not only successfully carry out this critical mission, but also to advance the entire field of medicine and to make the communities it serves and the world a better place, among many other notable accomplishments. And whereas stated more simply, the Cleveland Clinic is one of the best hospitals in the world, and whereas the Cleveland Clinic has officially merged with and acquired one of the city's great institutions, Martin Health System, making our state-of-the-art Tradition Medical Center part of the Cleveland Clinic, and whereas the people of PSL are proud to welcome the Cleveland Clinic to their new home and to have a world-class healthcare provider operate one of our local hospitals, and whereas the Cleveland Clinic can be expected to positively impact the health and wellness of our citizens and to improve our community's overall quality of life, thereby facilitating our city's greater prosperity, and whereas there's great overlap in the visions and missions of the organizations, and we have a special opportunity to work together to achieve shared goals that will make our community and our world a better place. And whereas we would like to formally welcome the Cleveland Clinic to Port St. Lucie and to memorialize this momentous occasion, I declared their day of their announcement, Cleveland Clinic Day in Port St. Lucie. And if you saw the, thank you everybody. If you saw the front page of the paper, I actually snuck into their press conference, was the second questioner, and delivered that to them personally. I think they really appreciated it.